Good evening, parents and staff. It's again a privilege to speak to all of you online, and as we said 2 weeks ago, we will continue doing these online meetings until everybody is comfortable and they know what's happening. So tonight is specifically for Lesotho parent questions that we received. We'll answer tonight. Tomorrow night is Botswana, and then of course Thursday night is a general information evening, just for those borders that's not based in Lesotho or Botswana, but more South Africa or one or two other countries that's not covered by tonight and tomorrow night's presentation. So thank you for joining me for tonight, and I hope that by the end of the session I've answered all your questions and give you more clarity on the way forward. There's questions. May I ask that you first listen to the presentation. If you realize there are one or two things that I haven't covered, you are more than welcome to ask the questions at the end. But otherwise, you can keep it for Thursday night's general information evening as well. But there's Mr. Drew's number. If there's something urgent you'd like me to answer tonight, then I'll do so. The first question that we received was, please explain the contingency plan of removing children from the school campus within 12 hours of notice if a case is confirmed. Also, how do parents come into South Africa at short notice? If a pupil tests positive, they will not be allowed to cross the border back home. Please outline parents' role and how we should prepare for such. So first of all, the contingency plan is that we are currently speaking to a guest house. So if we have, or two guest houses rather, so if we have to vacate the boarding house, that these kids then will be accommodated in the guest house or guest houses, because they will have to keep their distance. So we are in the process of discussing that with guest houses. Also, how do parents come to South Africa at short notice? These are our home affairs questions that I cannot answer. We are receiving quite a lot of different information from Home Affairs and from ISASA that's giving us guidance. But it seems like that because you will have to prove that you do not have COVID-19, that you are clean, and that when you come to the South African side, that you will be quarantined here as well. So, and these regulations change the whole time. From a school point of view, I will be able to issue a permit to say that your child is ill and that's why you need to come through to Kimberley. And we can explain why, but you will have to clear this with your police in the Masira side, as well as the South African side, if they will allow you through. I cannot answer that on behalf of the South African authorities, or even the Lesotho authorities. If a pupil tests positive, they will not be allowed to cross border back home. That's correct. And that's why we will then quarantine them in a guest house until you can get to them. And then also we are speaking to the guest houses currently that then will need to take care of these pupils during that period. So you can see for yourself that it creates a gray area. Even the Department of Health haven't really thought this one through. So we are trying to get this approved, that we can identify two guest houses. These kids can then quarantine there. We as a school will still play the supportive role, but we cannot be there 24/7. And that's where the staff of the guest house or the owners, which we are currently speaking to, will then have to be the local parentis or standing in as parents. So yeah, so that unfortunately, that's what will have to happen. Please outline parents' role and how we should prepare for such. That's linking to the second bullet, is that we, as I said, I can give you permits. I can say to authorities why you need to travel to South Africa. But again, it will depend on the border posts if they're going to allow you through. And because you're coming from a different country, you'll probably have to quarantine, even if it's for an emergency that you need to come through. And as I say again, we are trying to get clarity on this matter, but not Department of Health, not Department of Home Affairs are very clear in their answers on this point. And they're the only authorities that give me guidance. Even if SASSA is trying to find out, who's the SASSA again, the Independent Schools Association of Africa, even they are trying to find out on our behalf, because there are many schools that's asking this question, but we are struggling to get the answers, the straight answers from you, because it changes from day to day. So what will happen that I can confirm is that if your child is positive, then they will be able to quarantine in the guest house. The guest houses are also in the process of applying as quarantine venues, and we are in the process of getting that clear. If someone is positive, Brian is just going to mute somebody there. May I ask, please do not unmute yourself. If someone tests positive, must entire boarding house be vacated? Perhaps a temporary accommodation could be considered for temporary isolation and testing. Yes, the boarding house will have to be isolated and or vacated, and the kids will have to go and stay in a guest house. Another way of doing it is to vacate the pupil that tested positive or the staff member, and then quarantine them in the boarding house. We are still waiting for the Department of Health, Northern Cape Department of Health, to come and pay us a visit. We are in the process of getting them on campus. They were supposed to come last week. Unfortunately, they postponed it. We are waiting for them to come and visit us, because as soon as they came to visit us, we will then be able to give you more clarity on these answers. But speaking to other boarding houses in South Africa, there seems like there's two choices. You either quarantine the kids in the boarding house that might have had contact with this pupil, the pupil gets removed, or you vacate the whole boarding house and everybody gets kind of quarantined in a different venue. Makes no sense. To me, it's easier for the kids to quarantine in the boarding house and remove the child that's positive, and the other kids need to test, go through the test, and they just quarantine in the boarding house. Then, of course, we will remove the staff that have limited access to these kids, and we will then ask our school nurse, etc., to assist us in this process. But this is still very grey, because we're still waiting for the Department of Health to give us clear guidance. I cannot apply what Northern Cape Free State, what Department of Health Free State has told the CBC schools in the Free State, because every Department of Health provincially are changing the rules and are applying their own rules. We've seen it even how the Department of Social Development is changing the rules province to province for ECDs, etc. So, but that is what we will do in that case. We just need to confirm that that is acceptable from or by Department of Health. There's an increased risk that staff and children may not be able to adhere to physical distancing. What appropriate effort should be made to maintain physical distancing where possible, particularly with roommates in the boarding house? We do know that some boarding houses are allowed to be 2 in the room. Even our room size, they just put screens between the beds, and the kids are staying in their separate sides. Some boarding houses were only allowed to bring 50% back. I can only answer this once the Department of Health inspected our property. We are phoning them every day to get them here. We do believe that the gentleman that is supposed to arrange our visit has also been quarantined because he or she was in contact with somebody that is positive, that tested positive. That's what we hear via the grapevine. Not even that they want to confirm for us. So, which makes sense that we can't get this person just to organize everything. We hope that by tomorrow morning, we will have a final answer from the Department of Health when they will come and visit, and we will clear guidance. For example, if we are allowed to put screens between the beds so the kids don't have interaction with each other when they sleep, are they allowed in our room size, or are we only allowed to operate on 50%? I cannot answer you those questions until we have the Department of Health that came to inspect us. Also, yeah, I'll get to that question later. So So we'll try everything in our effort as a school to maintain physical distance. And again, just like we do at school, we maintain the physical distance. But physical distancing is not just what I should do, but also what the kids should do. And we'll train them properly when they arrive on campus, what will be allowed and what will not be allowed, just like we've done for the other pupils on campus as well. What is the outcome in terms of people that with asthma or any other serious underlying conditions? All health information that we receive says they cannot return to the boarding house. They are high risk. So anybody that's got, we know that the question, we received that question last time as well, a girl that's got severe asthma cannot return back to the boarding house. They are at high risk when, or if you have any other serious underlying conditions. Underlying conditions are diabetes, or a heart condition, cancer, recovering from cancer. Those are all underlying conditions and cannot then return to the boarding house. So I hope I've answered the question. That's not my rule. That's what all the health practitioners has confirmed of us. Do not allow staff, pupils, or parents on campus if they have a serious underlying condition. They are at risk. The school should reconsider whether boarders should be permitted to leave the school premises during free time in order to minimize unnecessary interactions with others off the school premises, i.e. going to the mall. Can one consider collective or bulk shopping, delivery to school, etc.? Pick and Pay does allow that one can phone orders through and then one can just go and you pay them there and you fetch it. That's definitely something we can look at. I think it will also make the requirements for the boarding house staff much easier. Again, we are appealing to you to rather pack as much as you can, that they don't really need all those things. If it maybe are 1 or 2 snacks here or whatever, we can organize that. I think in any case, the staff will feel more comfortable if we limit their access to the mall and etc. But also remember, change of scenery is also sometimes good. So I don't want to say, yeah, let's just keep on the campus. It becomes too much if you stay on campus. I live on campus. I go from campus, my house, to my office. Even as an adult, I feel sometimes I need to get off campus. It gets too much staying on campus the whole time. So we will probably limit their visits, but I do think now and again, they just have to get off the campus. But that will be in the boarding house management hands, how they want to do that and limiting it as far as they can. But to keep kids on the campus the whole time, I just feel as an adult, I sometimes just have to get in the car and just drive around the block just to change the scenery. So, but yeah, it's a good question. There's definitely ways we can alleviate that. I don't have to go to the mall the whole time. But also, like we asked previously, try to pack as much as you can for them, because we will send, and we'll get to the transport matter now, we'll send big enough vehicles that they can bring their winter clothes, their winter blankets and everything that they need to be able to sustain themselves during this period. So yeah, so we'll definitely can do this collective for bulk shopping for them or ordering. Then the kids must just pay beforehand and then we can collect their orders. But that's a system we can install and put in place. Will the rooms still be shared? I've answered that question. We are waiting for the Department of Health to say if we can. If we can, then as I say, there probably will be partitioning or screens between the kids, also making sure there's safe distance. If we're not allowed to and only operate at 50%, then we will need to make a plan. How will it be dealt with if one pupil gets sick? So if a pupil have normal flu, there is a area in the boarding house where if somebody gets sick, they will go to a sick room. I think it's a better way to explain it. And so there is a way to isolate pupils that might have flu symptoms, not COVID-19, but just sick. And to ensure that they don't give that normal flu or normal cold to somebody else, we can isolate them. We don't have huge room, but we can accommodate 1 or 2 pupils if they get sick. If there's more, then we'll have to make a plan as well. But yes, there are ways to isolate those kids that get sick. Just for normal flu, normal cold, because we are in winter, and I can add that Kimberley is exceptionally cold. We moved here in 2016. 2016 was cold. 17 and 18 and 19 were mild, but this year it's back with vengeance. Actually, it's quite cold. Should one pupil at the boarding house test positive for COVID-19, will the boarding house still be allowed to operate? As I said, the pupil that that test positive will then be removed out of the boarding house. All the other boarders and staff that were in contact with the person needs to be quarantined. And as I said, we'll probably do that in the boarding house, and the people that test positive will be isolated, and then everybody else must be tested, and then see who's testing positive, and then also remove them from the boarding house. Is it possible to reconsider the school's decision to run the quarantine period only from the 1st of August? We understand that the school is able to regulate the 14 days if everyone is doing it together. But should the boarding house be an accepted quarantine area until September, then a pupil could still arrive in quarantine for 2 weeks following the procedure, and then after that mix with others who have completed theirs and cleared. So start at different times for different individuals. I've been in contact with schools that has staggered their starts, and the head said to me, it's a nightmare. First of all, we just don't have the manpower to do something like this. Also, it means that a child is sitting in a room while the rest of the friends are now allowed to come to school. I've spoken to specifically St. Dominic's College in Welkom, where the head said to me, Jacques, we've allowed these kids to come back as they wanted to. He said it was a nightmare. So even if I say 1st of August and then the 7th of August, it means that there's an overlap of kids in the quarantine. Parents, we just do not have the means to do that. And it sounds probably that I don't want to help you, or it sounds unreasonable. I had a discussion with the boarding house management. We've looked at all possibilities, and it is just not feasible. And listening to schools that have done it differently, I say to Jacques, don't do it. It creates a nightmare. So parents, it's either the 1st of August coming back, or we'll probably then have to consider a start after the September holiday. But a lot of you didn't want to fill in your survey because you were waiting to hear about the 1st of August. We can move that date. I can't move that date. They have to be on campus on the 1st of August. First of all. Second of all, that's a quarantine period. If you want to join the school, anything after that and after the September holiday, you will have to quarantine yourself. Otherwise, we put the whole boarding house back into this system, which we can't. So we will do a 14-day quarantine period from the 1st of August until the 14th of August. The 15th of August, the kids will be able to breathe a bit outside and start roaming around. We can't accommodate anything more than that. What is the process if you do not want to start on the 1st of August and you want to quarantine yourself? I don't know. We're trying to find out if you're allowed to. Are the pupils allowed to? Where will they? But you'll probably then have to quarantine in a state facility before you then can join our school. And parents, that's why we decided the 1st of August, because as you can see, I knew the authorities are going to take their time to approve us. That's why we're aiming for the 1st of August. We are still on track to get everybody here on the 1st of August. The Department of Health has just not played ball. And there's those 14 days. I've spoken to the head of the high school, Mr. Gloma. I've spoken to the boarding house management. And that's what we can do, but we cannot do anything after that. We don't have the means. We don't have the manpower. And it throws everybody in a different mode if we allow people to come back. Even after September holiday, if we allow you then to come back, it means that you need to then, the boarding house needs to be quarantined again. And that's unfair to the kids that already were quarantined. So we can't do it. You will have to then quarantine on your own and give me proof that you were quarantined somewhere in South Africa before you allowed to come to the campus. And I hope you hear me. It's not that I'm trying to be difficult. It's just what can work. How's the September holiday is going to be treated, as the boarders would have only just returned to school? we'll probably be able to accommodate you if you receive, if in the 1st of August and you can't go back during the September holiday and you have to quarantine again, that won't be necessary. We will be able to accommodate you during those 2 weeks holiday. That's something myself and the boarding house management must just figure out exactly how we'll do it. But we'll be able to accommodate you that you don't have to go back home and then quarantine all over again. So basically, when you arrive, you are arriving for 2 terms. That's what you need to take into account. Will social distancing be considered when traveling to Kimberley? Definitely. We will send enough, a big enough transport to ensure that social distance or physical distancing are being kept to within the regulations. And therefore, it won't, if it's 2 of you is returning, then it will be a minibus. If it's 6 of you returning from Lesotho, that can still be a minibus because we can fit you in. We just need to check regulations. But we will make sure whatever we send will be big enough to make sure that we are within the transport regulations and that we also have big enough trailer for you to bring your bedding and your clothes and everything you need for basically 6 months or 5 months going forward before you can go home. Will the boarders be given counseling during quarantine? Definitely. There will be a screening process when they're in quarantine. The people support, I had the discussion with Dr. Swicker this afternoon. Definitely there will be a counseling program happening for them during that period. And as I said last time as well, we also make sure that they can get out on a roster system, stretch their legs outside in the front field. Sorry, before they go back to the rooms as well. How will the dining or catering work for the quarantine period and thereafter? So first of all, during quarantine, their meals will be taken to their rooms. They can only eat in their rooms. After quarantine, they will be staggered. It will not be buffet meals anymore. We're not allowed to serve the buffet style like we did before. So it will be dished up for them by somebody specific, and we will make sure that probably what will happen is the boys will eat first and the girls will eat last, or vice versa, whatever, but they will eat separately, just to make sure we maintain that minimal number as possible in the dining room. I hope I've answered that question. Has the shower bathroom procedure been finalized? We have a plan in place. We are again just waiting for the Department of Health to approve it. During the quarantine period, only 1 person in the bathroom at a time. That's been made very clear. After quarantine, then they will be allowed to be 2 or 3 in the bathroom, but not more than that, because they will have shower space, shower space, shower, if there's, for example, 5 showers. 5 toilets. 1 toilet open, 3rd toilet may be used, 4th toilet will be blocked off, 5th toilet may be used. So that means that there are 2 or 3 pupils at a time allowed after quarantine in the bathroom. During quarantine, only 1 person. And as I said last time, there is a sanitizing and cleaning program being put in place to ensure that it's being cleaned. Has the frequency of the laundry service been finalized? Yes, we are going to do it internally, and therefore where they normally submit it once or twice a week, it will now happen that they submit, for example, the girls will submit Monday, Wednesday, Friday the 1 week, and the boys will be Tuesday, Thursday, for example, and other week it will swap around. But there's, I'm just making up an example, but that will be more, so it will be more frequent washing taking place, and it will take place in-house. And that's why we will send bigger transport and bigger trailers so that the kids can just bring 2 or 3 or 4 sets more clothes also during this time, but they don't have to wait a week before they get the clothes back. If it's getting washed the Monday, hopefully they'll already have it back the Tuesday. If they wash the Tuesday, they'll hopefully get it back the Wednesday. You mentioned that educators have to quarantine. What about pupils' parents who travel to hotspot areas? So parents that travel to hotspot areas, you have to quarantine or to isolate, making sure you're not showing any symptoms or that you are not in contact with anybody that were tested positive for COVID-19. That's why pupils are being quarantined when they arrive here. Again, that's why I rather send transport to the areas, and that's why I said even if I have to send transport to Joburg, we'll do that because we're trying to limit the parents that are traveling to Northern Cape or to Kimberley, and trying to limit your access to our campus as well. That's why we'll send kids with transport, or transport rather, to fetch your kids. When exactly will the September exam start? So we're working on for grade 12s to start on the 21st of August, and the rest of the school will start around about that date as well. The high school will publish those dates sometime this week, sometime this week. What is the final outcome in terms of boarding fees payable? Do pupils only start paying from the moment they return to school? So all boarders that will arrive from the 1st of August, you will be billed full for the third term. Pupils with a credit, as I explained last time, for the days that you are on campus. Pupils that are going to write in their countries. So you are not returning on the 1st of August. You might only return later, or you might not return this year. You will have to pay a 50% boarding house fee because we do have fixed overheads that must be covered. So if you're going to stay at home, boarding house fees will be 50%. And the other, we're trying to give you a discount so that the exams or tests that will be written in the provinces will be, you have money available to pay for those expenses. We will make those expenses known sometime this week, but we cannot just write off you're allowed to come back. If we hear that only 50% is allowed to come back, then we will make another plan. But for now, according to what we're hearing from the health and what we should be able to do in the boarding house, you may return on the 1st of August. Return on 1st of August, full boarding house are due, less 2 weeks, because you're only starting the 1st of August. Karen will bill accordingly, the financial manager. If you do not return on the 1st of August and you want to continue with your online learning at home, full school fees are still payable. 50% boarding will be payable, and the cost to write in your countries, we will bill that to you. But we'll make those costs available. We're trying that you write at schools that there are no venue hire. So we're trying to keep the cost as minimal, and the invigilator needs to be paid. So we're trying to keep those costs as minimal as possible, and we'll make those costs available sometime this week. We're just waiting for the various schools to give us their final answers. What if my child shows cold or flu symptoms when it's time to leave South Africa? Then they may not enter South Africa. They will not allow your child to enter South Africa if they show any cold or flu symptoms. If you may be a South African boarder that's listening tonight, you won't be able to return there because you got cold or flu symptoms. So unfortunately, then you cannot travel and you'll have to continue with online learning. Those are all the questions that we received beforehand. Did you want to hear if there are more questions?
How will the school ensure the online learning continues when the quarantine is?
All the guest houses we're speaking to do have Wi-Fi. So if a child then needs to quarantine at a guest house, they will then be able to access their devices, use the same devices they're currently using, because the guest houses do have Wi-Fi available for them to continue with their online lessons. Yeah, what's the cost for the guest houses? We are still negotiating with them. How will the school ensure? Oh, is that what you answered from the chat room? Sorry.
Nothing more.
Okay, there's no WhatsApp questions.
Sorry, that guest house question, the costs, they also want to know how far is it from the school?
It's different options, but we're trying that it's walking distance from the school. two guest houses we're currently talking about are in walking distance of the school. Anything else? Just give it a couple of seconds just to see if there's more questions coming through.
Someone just said they're clean with internet connection. We'll send out links for the recording on Wednesday morning.
The recording, I believe some are struggling with reception or listening or getting clear reception on their site. We will make sure that this goes onto our website by Wednesday morning latest. If you've missed any other presentation up to this point, you can just go to our website or our online presentations that we've been doing since the beginning of lockdown. It is on our website.
There's a few that's come through, sir.
Okay, see there's apparently asymptomatic cases as the school probably considered actual testing of the kids. We're not allowed to test the kids. The question here, let me just read out loud. There's apparently been asymptomatic cases as the school probably considered actual testing of the kids. We are not allowed to do that. We don't have the means to do it, and it's 860 Rand a test. We just don't have that means to do it. But that's why we are doing everything that is required, from screening to making sure anybody that's got some sort of symptom, like it's just a normal flu or cold, they don't come to school, etc. So we do take safety very seriously, but at the end of the day, we also trust that a pupil will rather say to us, I've got an itchy throat, and they'd rather stay at home. But we just don't have the means. We're in any case not allowed to do those tests on campus. Are you going to use them to quarantine other kids? I don't get
There was a previous question from that gentleman. What's going to happen to kids' beds who may not be returning to school immediately? Then he says, are you going to be using them to quarantine other kids? So if you look have you established the guest house costs?
Yeah.
Far from school, there's a second part to that. What's going to happen to kids' beds?
It will remain empty. If I understand this question correctly, don't worry, we're not going to make money out of your child's bed and allow other people that's not part of the CBC or other borders to in. I mean, that we won't do. That's not going to happen. That will stay empty. When will kids with underlying medical condition likely to return, for example, asthma? Parents, that question about underlying conditions, especially now that this virus is getting really rife in South Africa, the medical practitioners are really advising that these kids must stay at home. And they will probably only advise us to accept these kids back at school once the curve is starting to subside. But as we know that this curve is still climbing in South Africa, and will probably only subside in October when it's a warmer month starting. So therefore medical practitioners say to us, keep those kind of kids from school campus as far as possible, because they're high risk, and we will only allow them back once the medical practitioners in South Africa advise us that it's now safe, that these kids can come back to school. Might be October, it might only be beginning of next year. But I know you would like to have your kids back, but it's safety first. And my parent hat, if I put that on, I'll say try to keep them at home as far as possible. Okay, seems like WhatsApps are quiet now. I'll just give it another couple of seconds. Right, it seems like we've answered all the questions. Parents, thank you for joining us for tonight's presentation. I hope I've answered your questions. I do apologize again that there are 2 or 3 questions, which is grey, which I cannot answer until we've had our Department of Health visiting our campus. I was really hoping that, because they promised us last week Monday, then it became Tuesday, then Wednesday, and then they said, okay, maybe today. And now today again, they were not here and they're not making contact with us. So I hope by tomorrow we will have an answer. Or in any case, ask the admin staff to send you a message to let you know that Department of Health is now visiting our campus. And then we will hopefully, we're really trying to get this done before Thursday night. So I can tell you those 3 gray areas, those questions, that I can give you a concrete answer on Thursday night. But I hope I've answered all your other questions. Thank you for your patience. I know it's not easy. It's frustrating me as well that I can't give you clear answers on certain matters. But unfortunately, our hands are tied by authorities, and we need to, we're in their hands and we must be guided by them. So I do not want to just follow my own nose and do things which put your kids at risk. And that's why we also decided 1st of August, because this will give us enough time to get everything in place. So to get your kids safely back to school. Otherwise, stay safe, stay warm if you're in a cold area like us, and looking forward to see you again on Thursday night, hopefully with those last couple of questions with more clarity on those points. The boarding house staff are working very hard behind the scenes to ensure that everything is put in place for your kids. And they are just as frustrated as me, because there's a lot of things that they want to plan and put in place, but we can't until we have clear guidance from the Department of Health. So really hats off to Ms. De Bruin and the team, trying everything in their ability with the limited information that we have to put things in place to get it ready for your kids to return. But also know they miss the kids back and have this empty nest syndrome. And I know that they're looking forward to welcome your kids back as well. I wish you all a wonderful night, and thank you for joining us.